one I mind, and I know it's been a while since my last one, but I am finally back with another Ninjago throwback review. Today I'm going to be taking a look at set number 2518, Nuckal's ATV, which originally released in 2011 as a part of the very first Ninjago wave. This set contains 174 pieces, 2 minifigures, and originally retailed for $24.99 in the US. As I just mentioned, this video is a part of my Ninjago throwback review series, so let me know in the comments which set you want to see a throwback review on next. It could be any set from 2011 to 2018, and while I don't have them all, I do have a lot of them, so let me know in the comments which one you want to see a review on next. If you want to see which throwback reviews I've already done, there's a playlist in the description, but now let's get on to this review. So although I did collect Ninjago back in 2011, this is one of the sets I did not actually get until recently this year, but it was one I always looked at in LEGO magazines and always was kind of interested in. I do believe I had a friend who had it, though I never really got to play with it, so it was super nostalgic to finally build this up. And I have to say, in ways I really like it, but in other ways I'm a little bit disappointed. Now right off the bat, things I like about this is of course a villain vehicle. That's something we don't get too often nowadays, but back in 2011 Ninjago, that was the bulk of the sets. The Ninja, in fact, didn't have any vehicles. They did have dragons, but it was only one dragon each. But most of the sets were vehicles for the villains, which is something I really miss nowadays, because even though we sometimes get villain vehicles, it's very uncommon, and if we do get any, it's probably just one. There was something pretty novel about having like a whole army of villain vehicles. I always love the theming on the skeleton vehicles too, with like the big skull faces out the front. It's simple, but the way they do like these glowing red eyes right here, with these brick-built eyebrows on top, looks super ominous, and of course the teeth pieces are classics. Then that skull sort of wraps around the center of the vehicle. You can see you can hinge it up a little bit, but not too much. It's pretty restricted. And then on the back you have a seat for Nuckal. He has to stand, not sit, because the Skulk and minifigures can't sit. But you can see there's 2 little joysticks right here for him to hold on to. And I guess this is meant to be a low brick-built console, though there's no like printed or stickered pieces or anything to show an actual console. The technical pieces coming out the back is a nice touch, gives off sort of like ribcage vibes, again fits with the whole skeletal theme. The one fiery exhaust I do think is really cool, though I think it would have been better if they were on both sides. It's very easy to customize if you wanted to do that, but yeah, I think it would have been more effective if it was more symmetrical. And then the bike uses these big plastic wheels. Now this is something that LEGO really doesn't do as much nowadays. Most wheels are rubber now, just because the plastic wheels don't work as well in every environment, because sometimes they might just slide instead of roll. But I have to say, there is something special about these plastic wheels, because they do feel just like very illogical. Like these don't look like they would be the ideal wheels for a car, but that's what makes them so special. They definitely give off that like evil spooky vibe, and fit the aesthetics of the Skulk so well. And yeah, while they may not roll as well in like carpet, you can see my light box are rolling just fine. So personally I think they work pretty well, and I'd like to see them do this again. And then there's a little bit of a play feature with this build. You can see there's like this big bolt at the front. This I believe was originally introduced in LEGO Bionicle, and it was used in a ton of sets at that time. And to launch it, you just have to pull back on this trans red piece right here, and that'll shoot it out with quite a lot of force. It makes for a very fun toy, but also a very dangerous toy, because yeah, that is a pretty powerful blast, so that's a pretty hefty bolt. So for kids, you definitely have to be careful with it. All the instructions always include a warning saying to not shoot it into people's eyes, but I always had fun with these as a kid. I also quite like the suspension that this vehicle has. It's able to bounce a little bit, just gives it a little bit more life. But now let's get into the parts of the build that I don't really like. For one, this build feels very small and empty. Like, physical size is about what I expect for a $25 set, but you can see most of that footprint is where it extends out to attach the wheels. The actual body of the vehicle is super thin and also just kind of ugly. They attach just all these random Technic pieces on the side, I guess, to give it a sort of mechanical look, but then you can see there's just a giant gap right here where the bolt slides in. I think I just wish this was a little bit wider, because yeah, only too wide with how big it actually is, it makes the actual body of the vehicle feel quite small. Because like this front angle of the vehicle, like they show in the box, I think looks great, but when you look at it from the side instead, it just feels a lot more messy. It's not the biggest thing in the world, and I do still really like this set, but yeah, I have to say I was a little bit let down by this. I don't think I would have minded it when I was little, because as I said, I had friends who had this set, and well, like, I never played with it super close. I do remember still thinking it was super cool, but yeah, especially compared to modern LEGO sets, at the very least some color consistency here would have been nice. But that's almost it for the vehicle. Real quick, let me show you how Nuckal connects to it. You of course attach him to these studs right here, lift his arms up, and there you go, there's how he actually looks driving the vehicle. Yeah, I mean, it's simple, but I think it works well. So overall, I like this one. It just leaves a little bit to be desired in a few places. But I'll talk about that more at the end of this video. Now let's take a look at the one kind of side build, and then the minifigures, and then I'll get into my overall thoughts. So somehow I believe this is my first time ever reviewing a set that comes with an original 2011 spinner. That's wild to me because the spinners are what made me fall in love with the Ninjago back in 2011. And while I still like what the theme is today, these spinners I still think are the best thing they've ever done, and I would give anything for these to come back. But yeah, I've never actually reviewed a set with them, but they are a lot of fun. This is a bit of a weird set for this because the set itself doesn't really include any interaction for the spinner. Like a lot of the other sets that come with spinners have something for the spinner to knock over, but no, I guess this one's more for imaginary play than like any actual play feature. But if you've never seen these guys before, how they work is they have this little platform in the center where you can attach a minifigure. You're supposed to slide them in with these arrows facing each other, and then he's sort of locked in and you just have to spin it. And there he goes. If you have more than one spinner, you're supposed to put both weapons out and have the two characters try to knock each other off the spinners. It's genuinely a lot of fun, but that's a subject for another video. But as for this inclusion, I think it's actually pretty good. This is the Kai DX spinner, which is really nice looking with the gold and the red. Now, the Kai DX spinner, I believe, comes in 2 other sets. He comes in like an individual spinner pack as well as another full set. But I believe this set was the first chance to get it, because I think the spinner pack came out in March and the other set came out in maybe June. Something that's maybe a little bit unfortunate is the set doesn't come with any spinner cards, which some sets did and some sets didn't, but it definitely would have been a nice inclusion here. But yeah, at the very least, you got the spinner and the character, and back in 2011, this was a way to get it a little bit early. So yeah, very fun inclusion, just adds a little bit more play to the set. Now, here are the 2 minifigures in the set. We have Kai DX and we have Nuckal. Kai DX is a fantastic minifigure. The 2011 Ninja minifigures are obviously a lot simpler than the ones we get nowadays. However, especially for 2011, this figure is amazing. The gold printing on top of the red looks fantastic, and I love how it's actually metallic too. It's not just like matte printing. The design of the dragon looks really great. It's obviously based off the actual fire dragon build. But then I love this flaming tail that also comes down into the legs. Then, of course, Kai just has the classic ninja hood in red. And if we remove that, you can see his back torso print, which back torso printing was another thing that was pretty uncommon for 2011. But here you can see his guy's original symbol back there, as well as his name written beneath it. I know when I was a kid, I thought these figures were the coolest thing. They just felt so special and elegant. So it's really nice that this guy came in a relatively cheap set, because there's really no reason this set had to come with Kai DX. They really could have just included regular Kai, but no, this made this set extra special, and I really appreciate it for that. Oh, and then of course we have the original Kai face print too. And then we have Nuckal. I always found the Nuckal figure really interesting, because I think this figure looks like super cool. Like, I remember when I was a kid, I saw this figure, I was like, wow, that guy looks awesome. He's got an eye patch, a crack in his skull. He looks like he'd be a super dangerous villain. And then the show airs and he's a comic relief character. I love Nuckal in the show, don't get me wrong, but I feel like his show appearance and his set appearance are 2 very different things. I feel like the set designers definitely did not have a show personality planned at the time. But yeah, the minifigure is very interesting. I still maintain that it is a super cool design, and like the mohawk at the top's a really fun touch, but it does do a pretty poor job of capturing his personality and look in the show. I definitely think his legacy version is a bit better at that. He also comes with like this bone axe weapon as an accessory, and then of course he's just got the blue skulking armor underneath, which is always very nice to get. I do think that looks good. I always love like the printed spikes and how every skeleton had a different color. Removing that though, there's a foot look at the torso piece. Overall, I think this is a fantastic minifigure selection. 2 minifigures that are really good, especially for 2011. And at the time of the set's release, this was also the cheapest way to get both of them. They did both later come in spinner sets, but even still, these were perfect choices here. And so, overall, what are my thoughts on this set? I mean, I do really like this set, but I have to say, a lot of that's probably for nostalgia reasons. It's just that satisfaction of 12 years ago, I was looking at this in a LEGO magazine, and now I finally have it in my hand. But objectively, is it a good set? It's alright, honestly. Like, I wouldn't call it bad, but it's also nothing all too special. I'd say the minifigure selection is great, especially for the price. And the build is fun. But even in 2011, there's probably better builds out there. And the price on this one's not incredible. $25 for 170 pieces. I guess you do get a spinner, which does raise the value up a little bit, but I'm not sure. I think overall, it's just a very average set. Not one of LEGO's best, but also very far from their worst. So would I recommend it? I mean, if you liked what you saw here, you could pick it up. I got this one in the aftermarket, and I don't remember it being too expensive, which is part of why I chose to get it. Like, I think you could still get it for around retail. So if you don't have these minifigures, or you just want to get more 2011 Ninjago sets, I think this is a decent one to try out. But yeah, I wouldn't call it anywhere near, like, one of my favorite sets of all time. But of course, those are just my thoughts. I'm curious to hear what you guys think of this set in the comments below. As mentioned at the beginning of this video, let me know in the comments which throwback review you guys want to see next. And if you're looking for something else to watch, go check out my full throwback review playlist. And I think that's about all I have to say. So thanks for watching, everybody, and I will see you all in the next one. Bye!